My name's Michael. I've been driving an RV across the country for almost 10 years, sometimes for the adventure, and sometimes just to get away from the noise of the city and unwind. I used to travel with friends a lot, but over the past couple of months, I stopped. Now I travel alone. No route, no plans, no signal. There's something special about that kind of vibe. That evening, I stopped outside of town, about 30 kilometers from the nearest settlement. There was just a dirt road, some pine trees, and an empty, isolated spot near an old abandoned quarry. The kind of place I like. Quiet, not a soul around, just sky, rocks, and wind. I parked and turned off the engine. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, and the air was getting cool. I turned on a dim light inside, yellow, warm, cozy. Made myself some coffee, climbed onto the couch with the mug, and put on a movie on my laptop. About an hour later, the laptop battery died. I yawned, turned off the light, and laid down to sleep. It was completely silent outside, the kind of silence you never find in the city. I slept peacefully at first, but then suddenly woke up for no reason. I had this feeling that someone was nearby. I couldn't hear anything, but the sensation kept growing stronger. Nighttime anxiety, I thought, and tried to go back to sleep. Maybe 20 minutes passed. I was almost asleep again, when I heard footsteps. They were quiet, but distinct. The crunch of gravel underfoot. Someone was walking near my RV. Anyone, even a seasoned traveler, would feel fear in that moment. Who the hell would be out here, in a place like this, in the middle of the night? My heart started pounding. The footsteps moved to the driver's side. Someone was just standing there. Then I heard a faint creak. The driver's door handle. Someone tried to open it. I quietly got up from bed and grabbed a knife off the table. It was dark inside. I didn't turn on the lights, didn't want to give myself away. The person moved around to the passenger side, tried that door too. Then to the back, where the entrance was. I could hear them slowly circling the whole trailer. Then silence again. I walked over to the door and must have made a noise by accident. "Who's there?" I asked. A man said he was a security guard. I took the risk and opened the door. A bright flashlight blinded me for a moment. The guard asked what I was doing there, and if I knew that being on quarry grounds was prohibited. He acted very suspiciously, twitchy movements, and he reeked of alcohol. I told him I'd leave in the morning. I asked why he tried to open the doors. "What are you talking about?" he replied. "I didn't try to open anything. Have a good night, and be careful." And then he left. I couldn't sleep after that. I hadn't planned on leaving, so I made myself another coffee and started watching a show. About half an hour later, I dozed off again, but was woken by a strange sound. Someone was humming a song. I couldn't make out the words, but I was sure I wasn't dreaming. Someone was back near my RV. This time, I felt a bit more confident. I figured it was the same quarry guard. I grabbed my flashlight, turned on the lights, and walked to the door. Off in the distance, I saw a man, just his silhouette. My flashlight wasn't strong enough to see more. I froze. Fear crept up again. It looked wrong, creepy. If you've ever played that Slender Man game, you'll get the idea. The man was just standing there, facing my direction, like he was waiting for something. I shouted, asked what he wanted. He didn't respond. I told him not to come any closer or I'd use a weapon. I didn't have one, just a kitchen knife, but I figured it might buy me time to drive out of there. I shut the door and climbed into the driver's seat. Then I noticed the driver's door was unlocked. I had forgotten to lock it. I shoved the key into the ignition and turned it, but the engine didn't start. I looked out the window where the man had been. He was gone. I tried again. Nothing. Looked around, checked the side mirrors. Not seeing him only made me more anxious. Tried to start the engine again. It sputtered, but stalled. I was furious at myself for never replacing the starter. Then I heard footsteps outside. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of the man. He was standing by the door. I tried the ignition again. My hands were shaking, sweat dripping down my forehead. He tried the door. I looked in the mirror and saw his face. The man looked terrifying. He had to be around 60. His face showed almost no emotion. He looked like a walking corpse. I rushed to the door and wedged a chair against it. He kept trying to force his way in. I couldn't call anyone, no signal in this place. But then I remembered the guard. I had an idea to signal for help. I slammed the car horn. The loud blaring sound startled the man at the door. A minute later, I saw a flashlight in the distance. It was the guard. He asked what was going on, and I told him everything. I described the man who was trying to break in. The guard's face changed. He told me no one lived anywhere nearby, said I probably got spooked by a wild coyote. Either he didn't believe me or didn't want to. I asked if he could stay while I changed the spark plugs. He said he had to leave immediately, couldn't abandon his post for long. I changed the plugs almost completely in the dark, got the engine started, and decided to drive off right away. I passed the security checkpoint on the way out and saw the guard talking to someone. It was dark, I couldn't make out who it was, but something deep inside told me it was him. The guard looked at me one last time, and I left. A year later, I came back, but didn't stay overnight. I wanted to speak with the guard, but he wasn't there. Instead, there was a woman on duty. She told me the truth. The guard used to sell illegal substances out here. Turns out, a lot of dangerous people came to that place at night. One night, there was some kind of altercation. The guard was stabbed. They couldn't save him. Now I understood who that creepy man was, and what he might have wanted from me. Hi, my name is Ron, and this story happened when I was 23 years old, 4 years ago. It's hard for me to remember that day because it changed my everyday life forever. I was working in an office and had to finish a weekly report. It had a lot of charts and calculations, but that's not important. The main thing is, I was exhausted. I finished around 11 p.m. and only one other person was left in the office, Christina. She was also finishing a report, but she worked in a different department. When I was done, I walked over to Christina and asked if she was going to be much longer. She said she'd stay for another hour. I didn't wait and decided to take a taxi home. I left the building and ordered a ride to my address. My home was in the suburbs, in a not-so-great area. I waited around 20 minutes before the taxi arrived. I got into the car and greeted the driver, but he didn't respond. I was sitting in the back seat of an old Volkswagen and couldn't see the driver's face. But I have other senses, and one of them started screaming. The car reeked of cheap cigarettes and mold. It felt like I had stepped into a restroom at a roadside diner. But no, I was in an old car, just trying to get home quickly. I forgot to mention something important. I was wearing an expensive suit because our company had a strict dress code. You'll understand why I'm emphasizing that later. During the ride, the driver remained silent and smoked a lot. I started coughing but didn't ask him to open the window. I didn't even want to talk to this man. About 15 minutes later, we pulled up to my house and I got out of the car. I paid for the ride and started walking to my front door. The car stays parked where it was, but I figured he was probably waiting for another client. I reached the porch and unlocked the door. I looked back one more time and noticed something unsettling. The driver was staring right at me. His gaze was disturbing, and I quickly went inside. Finally, I was home. It had been a hard day. Time to take a shower. That's what I was thinking as I entered my house. I went to the kitchen and heated up some leftover pizza from the day before. I grabbed a slice and headed to the shower. My shower stall wasn't very big. I turned on the hot water to relax before bed. Some people listen to music or the radio, but I shower in silence. I'm used to it. I heard something fall in the kitchen. I didn't think much of it and kept showering. 10 minutes later, I came out and headed to the living room, just thinking about lying on the couch, watching YouTube, and relaxing. I forgot all about the sound in the kitchen. 2 hours passed, and I dozed off. I woke up in a state of deep anxiety. I heard the sound of a door opening coming from the kitchen. Even though I had just woken up, I clearly understood I was no longer alone in the house. I slowly sat up, trying not to make a sound. The room was dark, and I grabbed my phone to use the flashlight, but turning it on would have been a dumb move. Instead, I quietly walked into the bedroom and opened a window. I figured if I saw the intruder coming, I could escape through it. I called emergency services and stayed still in the room. Soon, I heard more sounds from the kitchen. Someone opened the fridge and broke some plates. I thought maybe a homeless person had broken in just to eat, but then I heard footsteps. He walked into the living room and started smashing my furniture. He was throwing stuff everywhere, clearly looking for something. I didn't know what to do, especially since I didn't know if he had a weapon. I tried to find something for self-defense, but ended up dropping my phone by accident. My heart nearly stopped. The noise in the living room stopped. I heard slow footsteps coming toward my bedroom. Thank God I had locked the door, I thought. The person who had trashed my house was now standing right outside my door. He knew I could hear him. He just stood there, completely silent. I froze and stopped breathing. I didn't know what would happen next. He stood there for about a minute, then slowly walked away. A few minutes later, the police arrived, and I told them everything that happened. They searched the house and assessed the damage. It seemed like the burglar was looking for valuables or money, but he didn't find anything unsurprising, since I don't have anything like that. Apparently, I forgot to lock the door, and he just walked in. But who was he? I couldn't sleep all night. I felt anxious and made myself some coffee. Then I played some Counter-Strike. Thankfully, I had the day off and didn't need to wake up early. In the morning, I went to make breakfast and looked out the window. At that moment, I froze like a statue. Across the street, the same Volkswagen was parked. The taxi I had taken the night before. The same man was sitting in the driver's seat, staring directly at me. He stared for a full minute before starting the engine and driving away. I don't know if he was the one who broke into my home. Maybe he thought I was rich because of the expensive suit. It doesn't matter. I immediately called the police and reported it. I never saw that man again. Hi, I'm Michael. 10 years ago, I worked at an insurance company. Every day I'd call clients to offer them new terms and services. Most of them probably hated me for always calling at the worst possible time. That day, I was working from home. I only needed to make 30 calls and finish a few other tasks. I sat in front of my computer all day, well into the evening. I had just one last call to make. I dialed the number and went to the kitchen to make some coffee. I was wearing wireless headphones, so I didn't have to sit in front of the screen during the call. The client picked up. I asked for his name to make sure it was him. It's pretty common for a relative to answer instead. Hello, is this Bob? No response. I repeated the question. Hello, is this Bob? Someone was breathing into the phone. A few seconds later, I heard an answer.
Yes.
His voice was strange, tired, almost emotionless. Once I was sure I had the right person, I began my pitch about a new life insurance plan. Normally, this is the point where clients hang up or politely say they're not interested. But Bob didn't hang up. He just listened silently. I asked, "Would you like to update your policy?" He replied,
That's a very interesting offer.
Again, his voice was cold and completely flat. So, does the new plan work for you? I asked. Bob went silent. I started to feel uncomfortable, so I repeated the question. Bob hung up. Well, that was the most awkward call of the day. I poured my coffee and took off my headphones. I left the computer on and went to relax in the living room. I put on a YouTube video, something about wilderness survival, and ended up falling asleep. I woke up around 11 p.m. and went to bed. As I walked past my desk, I noticed my computer was still on. I went over to shut it down, but then I saw a few notifications on the screen. Missed calls. They were all from Bob's number. That surprised me. I figured I'd call him back in the morning. My workday was over after all. Still, it was strange. It was the first time a client ever tried to call me back, especially one who had just hung up. I forgot to turn off the computer again and went to bed. I fell asleep quickly, but had a bad dream. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it jolted me awake. I opened my eyes and lifted my head. The room was dark, with only the glow of my computer monitor lighting it faintly. I got up, walked to the kitchen, drank a glass of water, and went back to my room. More missed call notifications, again from Bob's number. I couldn't understand why he was trying to reach me over and over, at night. What could possibly be that urgent? I was about to shut the computer down when another call came in. It was Bob again. It was weird. I mean, I wouldn't even call my friends this late, and this guy was practically a stranger. I decided to answer. I put on my headphones. Hello? Why are you calling me at this hour? No response. Just silence. Someone was just breathing heavily into the phone. I asked again, "Why are you calling?" Then he spoke.
Michael, I need your help.
His voice was distant, emotionless. I asked him what was wrong. Bob took a few deep, shaky breaths, and then he hung up. I had no idea what was going on. I tried to call him back, but no one picked up. A few minutes later, Bob called again.
I don't have a choice, Michael,
he said. Then silence. I stayed quiet too. This was starting to feel like some kind of weird prank, or worse. I asked again, "What do you mean? What choice?" No reply, but I heard a strange sound, like someone slowly opening a door. "Bob?"
They're watching me,
he whispered. A chill ran down my spine. "Who's watching you?" I asked. No answer, just breathing again. Steady, muffled. Then the call dropped. I tried calling back, but still no response. A few minutes later, I shut down the computer, but I couldn't sleep. Half an hour later, I was back at my desk, just sitting there, waiting. I was sure Bob would call again. And he did. This time, his voice was more tense. He was clearly on the move. I could hear his footsteps, like he was in a large warehouse or something. Bob told me someone was chasing him, that they wanted to kill him. I didn't fully believe him, so I asked why he was calling me instead of 911. Bob said the police wouldn't be able to help. Then he hung up again. A few minutes later, I got a message from an unknown number. "You'll pay for everything." That's when I stopped seeing this world as real. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, but it was real. Another call from Bob. I asked if he was messing with me. He didn't answer, just kept breathing into the phone, like he didn't even know we were connected. Then suddenly he spoke.
Michael, this is all because of you.
I asked what he meant.
Look out the window.
Bob said. His voice was calm and terrifying. My eye twitched. I stood up, and somehow I had no doubt that I would see Bob outside. The room was dark. I slowly walked over to the window. I opened the blinds and looked out. Across the street, standing right in front of my house, was a man. He was wearing an old coat and a hood. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. No response, just breathing. Then the man turned and walked around the corner of my building. Was he heading for the entrance? My whole body tensed. My mind started racing with awful thoughts. Who did I cross? What did he want from me? Bob was still breathing into the mic. I lost it. I shouted, loud and angry, that I was calling the police. No reply. I hung up. Then I heard the elevator in the building. I looked through the peephole and waited. But the elevator stopped at another floor. I locked my door, all 3 locks, and tried to think. Someone had threatened me. I had seen him outside my home. Should I call the police? But if they came too quickly, they wouldn't find him. He'd just wait until they left, then come back. All I could do now was wait. That deep, sick feeling of dread didn't leave me for another 30 minutes. Another call. I asked again what he wanted from me. Bob said I didn't need to worry. Soon, I'd stop getting calls from him. What do you mean? What are you planning, Bob? I'll never forget his last words.
Are you sure my name is Bob?
Terrified, I ripped off my headphones and ended the call. What the hell? Who was I talking to? I decided to check our client database. What I saw shocked me. Bob had died a year ago. He was 65 and had died of a heart attack. Suddenly, I heard footsteps in the stairwell. Panic and fear gripped me. I went pale and my stomach churned. I slowly, silently walked to the door and looked through the peephole. It was my neighbor. I opened the door. She asked why I was talking so loudly at night and told me to keep it down. I apologized and shut the door. I went back to my computer and blocked Bob's number permanently. Who called me, and what did he want? Who was the man outside my house? Just a random passerby? Or not? Now this story will stay with me forever.